I'm just going to jump right in tonight. And my only introduction for you is this, okay? I think the passage that we're about to read tonight is one of the most simple. It's not crazy. It's not crazy deep. It's not crazy, it's not, you're going to go there for like crazy talks on theology and all that stuff. Like, it's not crazy deep. It's just super simple. It lays it out what happens. But y'all, I think tonight in this last miracle in the Gospel of Mark before the resurrection, I think we see one of the most beautiful pictures of Jesus that we see in all the Gospels. I think we see one of the most beautiful and frankly, one of the most clear pictures of Jesus that we see of how awesome he is, how powerful he is, and really what he's done for us. And you ready? What our response should be to him. This is one of the best pictures we can possibly see. So does that entice you at all? Yeah. It entices me a lot. I'm ready. And so let's just pray real quick. And we're not going to really pray long. Just ask the Lord where we are. Let's repeat after me. Ready? Jesus, help me be amazed by you tonight. Sweet, that's it. Let's do it. Mark 10, verse 46. It says, and they came to Jericho. Remember Joshua fought the battle of Jericho? Remember that? Yeah, same place. They came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples, a great crowd, Bartimaeus, everybody say Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. So I'm not going to lie. When I read that verse, let's keep verse 46 up. We're going to read slow and walk through the Bible. There's something kind of funny to me in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. What's it say? It says, and they came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho. Is that not weird to anybody else? Like, bro, what happened in Jericho, bro? Like what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was reading this, and I was like, Jesus had to heal somebody in Jericho. Right? Like, I was like, Jesus had to teach something awesome in Jericho. You would think there would be something that Peter, helping Mark write this, was like, hey, we need to tell them about this. But you know what? I feel like I would be a bad high school youth pastor if I did not just tell you what I thought here, okay? Because I know I'm a high school pastor and I get that. You know what has encouraged me about this? Yeah, you ready? Just because you did something awesome does not mean you have to post about it. Right? Like, I'm sure Jesus did some awesome stuff here. I'm sure Jesus did like amazing things and taught some things. But Mark's like, you know what? I've already taught about a lot of stuff. Like, we're getting to the cross. Remember last week, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. The cross is now at the forefront of Mark's gospel, or it's about to be. So they came to Jericho and they left Jericho. And we're going to get to heaven one day and we're going to find out about it. But just because you did something awesome doesn't mean you got to post about it. Me and Courtney went to Michael Bublé a couple nights ago. Yeah, he was actually really good. He really was. It was good. And these two girls were sitting in front of us. And y'all, not stereotyping, but they fit every Gen Z millennial stereotype on the face of the planet, right? Instagram was out the whole time. Snapchat was out the whole time. And here's the thing. They were more concerned with capturing the moment than they were with experiencing the moment, right? Like, they were so concerned with how they're going to capture it, how that was going to look for 24 hours, that they didn't experience it. And I was just reminded reading this. I was like, just because you do something awesome, don't mean you got to post about it. What about next time you go to homecoming, you don't post? Wouldn't that be crazy? That'd be nuts. And sorry, I'm on a tangent now, but I just think it's awesome. They came to Jericho, then they left. And so they're leaving. And the Bible says Jesus with his disciples and a great crowd, and this dude named what? What's his name? Bartimaeus, a blind what? Beggar. With some other roadside. So here we got to do some work, okay? Because immediately when we read this, we got to understand that the way we view blind people is a lot different from how the people in this culture in this day and age would have viewed blind people, okay? Like, in our culture, praise the Lord that those who have been born blind or become blind, like, there's still some sense of opportunity, isn't there? Like, I was at Anderson, and there was a girl on our college campus, and she was blind, and she was able to go to class and with all this stuff, and I was like, girl, you are incredible. Like, every time I would, like, start complaining about my day, it seems like I would see her, and I'm like, man, that is just so encouraging, right? That although she's blind, there's still opportunity there, right? Still opportunity to have a family, still opportunity to have a job, still opportunity to have friends, like opportunity for an education. Like, when we think of someone being blind, we think of someone who's not, certainly there's disadvantages, but they're not limited in the scope of opportunity they can have, right? That's in our day. And the exact opposite, like literally the exact opposite would have been true in the first century here for this dude named Bartimaeus. The exact opposite would be true. Bartimaeus would literally be destined to do the very thing that we see him doing here. Sitting by a road, basically probably just crisscross applesauce, probably a cloth on his thing, and he'd be crying out to people, would you have mercy on me? Would you give me money? Would you deposit anything in my little bucket that I have, or maybe a fabric that he had laid over his lap? And basically he's at the mercy of people having compassion on him as they walk by every day. That's who Bartimaeus is, right? Probably didn't have any friends other than the friends that he sat beside on the road. That had no hope for a future. He was never going to get a job. He was never going to have a family. He was never going to have anything like that. If you can imagine just a social ladder, right? And who is on the social rungs, Bartimaeus being a blind beggar, probably on the bottom. Like maybe even like the floor that the ladder is leaning on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how low this beggar would have been. Does that make sense? So you have Jesus leaving Jericho, leaving this place, and he passes by this blind beggar. So look at what verse 47 says. And when he heard, that's Bartimaeus, when Bartimaeus heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And many rebuked him. Many are telling him to shut up, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. I love this so much. The power in that verse. And it says, Bartimaeus heard, because he can't see, right? But Bartimaeus can't see, but y'all catch this. Jesus' popularity has grown so much, and the word of what Jesus has done has traveled so much through all these cities that even a blind dude has heard about what Jesus has done and what Jesus has been doing. Isn't that crazy? Like that's how famous and how popular Jesus was in this area. And I love this so much because he's probably heard that there are lame people who are now walking because of Jesus. He's probably heard the story of the thousands who came and were listening to Jesus talk and they were hungry, but Jesus fed them all. He's probably heard, for you in chapel this morning, the story of the woman bleeding. Like he's probably heard all of these things. But most importantly, I bet you blind Bartimaeus has heard that there are blind people who are now seeing because Jesus touched them. Most importantly, I bet you that he has heard there are people who had the same condition that he did, people in the same circumstances that Jesus touched, and they're now seeing, and he realizes that that man is walking by him, so he's got to get his attention. And I just felt compelled to say this tonight, and maybe this is only for one person in this room, but I just wonder if there's someone in here, and you don't think that Jesus can save you from whatever you're dealing with. Like you're here and you're just like, maybe you're just here checking it out, or you come a lot and you think that you're dealing with something that's so unique to you that Jesus can't save you from what you're dealing with. And I just began to think, leaders, I hope y'all don't get mad at me for doing this, right? But I began to think about our leaders. I wasn't going to pick on any student, right? But our leaders. We got sexually immoral people that Jesus has saved. Huh? We have people who've been drunk that Jesus has saved. We got people who have done drugs that Jesus has saved. We got people who were so religious that they looked so perfect but didn't realize they needed Jesus, and yet Jesus saved them, right? And some of y'all are like, oh my gosh, these are our high school leaders. What in the world, right? Listen, hey, we're products of the grace of God. And listen, I'm telling you what, you go to a church this size on a Sunday morning, and whatever thing you think Jesus can't save you from, I promise you, there's probably someone in this room, and there's definitely someone here where Jesus has delivered them from whatever you think he can't deliver you from. So stop using that as an excuse to call out to him. Call out to him. And I love that Bartimaeus is like, look, he's healed blind people. He could probably do that for me. Right? Now, and I love, you guys do so good listening, and I love how when I ask you what tips we talk about to read the Bible, you're able to answer them so quickly. So we've done 2 tips, right? We've talked about 2 things on how to read the Bible better. What are they? Read slow and ask questions. Give yourself a hand. Give yourself a hand. Great job. Great job. Like I promise you, you will read the Bible better if you just do those 2 things, right? Read it slowly. Don't rush through it. Just read it slowly. And as you're going through, ask questions. Why did Jesus do this? Why did Jesus do that? And I'm so excited. Spoiler trailer real quick. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday, we're going to start a 5-week series in life groups on how to read the Bible better. Coming home from camp, and y'all did those surveys, remember that? Over half of y'all easily, when we asked, how can we help you in your walk with Christ? Easily over half of you said, I don't really know how to read the Bible and I want to get better at it. So for 5 weeks in life groups, that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm excited about that. How to read the Bible better. So little trailer. So I'm going to give you another tip. Okay, you ready for another one? Ready for number 3? Read slow, ask questions, and here's the 3rd thing. When you're reading your Bible, you ready? Picture it. Picture it. I think we have that as a slide for notes if you're writing that down. If you want a Bible reading tip, read slow, ask questions, and picture. Here's what I mean by that. This is a real event that's happening. right? This is a real dude. This is at a real city. This is at a real place, at a real time, and there's a real crowd around Jesus, and it's crazy. And I think so many times we just read it, and we're like, Mark chapter 10, and they came to Jericho, and he was he and Jericho's disciples, and a great crowd, bartimaeus, blind beggar, son of Timaeus, sitting by the roadside. And then he heard it, Jesus of Nazareth, and he cried out, Son of David. And we just read it, and we miss the beauty of it because we don't stop for a second and say, okay, let's picture this for a moment, right? So let's picture it. Can you imagine Jericho in your mind? All you got an imagination, right? All of you got one, right? Let's imagine. Can you imagine Jericho in your mind? I know we don't really know what it looks like, but imagine some, old first century city. And it says that they're at the gate, right? As they're leaving, so they're probably walking out of the gate of Jericho. This would have been one of the craziest places, right? So can you imagine there's this road that they'd have been walking on. There's probably people with carts that are selling stuff as you're walking out. Certainly there's more people than just Bartimaeus that are by the road begging. It's a crazy, loud scene. The thing that I thought about, anybody ever been to Panther games? You ever been to a Panther game? And you're leaving, and at that time, like 70,000 people are leaving at one moment, and it's just this bustle, just crazy, just this loud, just white noise, and you gotta like almost yell at the person you're walking beside because it's so loud where you're at, right? That's the kind of environment this would have been. This crazy, crowded gate where people are walking out and it's loud. And then all of a sudden you see this massive crowd of people. Like everything's crowded and there's a lot of people and there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's this massive crowd of people that's coming through the gate and they're leaving the gate and you begin to hear the rumors from the crowd that that's Jesus of Nazareth. Like that's the Jesus that was walking on water. That's the Jesus that's been healing everybody he's been seeing. That's the Jesus who we're not sure if he's the Son of God or what he is. He's something awesome. That's Jesus. And so can you see this? Can you picture it? You picture it with me. This scene is crazy. This moment's nuts. And you're like, well, I'm going to follow Jesus. Like, this guy's kind of cool. I'm going to see what he's going to do for a while. And you're following and it's loud and you're trying to get a glimpse of Jesus. And then over all the noise, you just barely begin to hear this, Jesus, Son of David. And you're like, what is this? Is this someone yelling? Like, why is this dude's yelling way louder? And you keep on walking and you keep on hearing it. And then it gets a little louder. It's like, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy. And like, and it's like crazy loud, all this stuff. And you finally get to a point where it is so loud. You're walking by him and you finally lay eyes on this beggar who's beside the road, probably dirty, probably gross, not wearing the nicest stuff. He looks like you would never really want to talk to him. You want to keep on walking by and pretend you're just, ignoring him. And this beggar is crying out to the top of his lungs, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And you're walking by and he's just yelling louder and louder. And you're walking by and it's like, bro, I wish that dude wasn't just blind. I wish he couldn't talk, right? He's being annoying. People are rebuking him, right? People are telling him as they're walking by, dude, just stop talking. We got to get to someplace. And he's just shouting out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, I'm going to test you. You ready? Ready for a Bible quiz? You ready for this? How many of y'all been with us like all the way through Mark? Like you were here last fall? Yeah, or most of it. Does anything jump out to you here that we've not seen yet? Yeah, okay, what was it?
Calling him Son of David.
Yeah. Good job, Kill. I hear you, bro. Listen, this, if you read in Mark's gospel and you start in chapter 1, guess what we did not see in chapter 1? We did not see Jesus called the Son of David. We didn't see it in Mark chapter 2. We didn't see it in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all of 10. And so here for the first time in all of Mark's gospel, we see this title given to Jesus, that Jesus is the Son of David. And so as we're reading this, it should kind of stop us about, okay, that's something new. Does that make sense? We're trying to read the Bible better, right? It's like, okay, this is something new. This has not been in Mark's gospel at all. So let's talk about what this meant. How many of you know who David was in the Old Testament? Someone shout it out. Who was David? He was a king, and he wasn't just a king, right? He was a great king. He killed Goliath. You had Saul was the first king of Israel, and then David was after Saul. And like David is the dude, right? Like David is the man. Like David was the top king of Israel that the people of Israel adored and loved. And in this chapter, we're not going to put the whole chapter on the screen, but if you want to go back and read it later, 2 Samuel chapter 7. 2 Samuel chapter 7, if you want to go back and read it on your own, probably one of the top 5, top 10 most important passages in the Old Testament. Okay, probably so. Because it's there that God speaks to King David. Okay? God addresses King David and he enters into what we call a covenant. He enters into what we call a promise, this covenant with him where God promises David a few things. And y'all, these promises are epic. This is not like anyone ever have your mom or dad promise you, like, hey, if you're not just crazy at my friend's house for a few hours, like I'll get you something from the store when we go. You ever had those moments? Yeah, like if we go to the mall and it's like, hey, as long as you don't act like a demon child at the end, I'll get you whatever snack you want. You know what I'm saying? Like those are promises. That ain't nothing compared to the promise David's about to get. Okay? So if you read 2 Samuel 7, you realize that David is going to promise, or God is going to promise David that he's going to make David's name great, which we can see that's happened. Like we still talk about David. Like Israel still loves King David. He's going to make David's name great. That God is going to appoint a place for David's people. And I love what it says in 2 Samuel 7, that God is going to plant them. Right? You get the idea that God is going to till up this soil and plant the people of Israel in a place where they can live. It's a beautiful picture. That God is going to give David rest from all his enemies. I mean, isn't that kind of the goal of like any kingdom, is to get to a place where you're not at war and you are at rest from all your enemies? Like that's what God says he's going to do. And probably the most amazing part of that promise is this, is that God is going to use a descendant of David, the offspring of David. God is going to use a descendant of David to establish David's kingdom forever. Like literally every other kingdom in this world. I love our country. Our kingdom's not going to last forever. Every other kingdom in this world will die and will fade away. But the kingdom that God promised David, this kingdom is going to reign forever. That's the promise that David got. That's good stuff. That's why it's not a surprise when we get to the Gospel of Luke and that Jesus is born in the city of who? David. That's why it's not a surprise when we get to Matthew's Gospel and Matthew gives us a genealogy of Jesus, and guess who's in Jesus' genealogy line? David, right? David's at the top and it goes down to Jesus. So notice this, when blind Bartimaeus, and we don't know how much he understood about this, we don't know how much he knew, but when he calls out, Jesus, Son of David, here's what he's saying, ready? He's saying Jesus is not just a cool teacher. Jesus is not just a miracle worker. Jesus is not just some great dude that you should model and moral your life after. He's saying, no, Jesus is the fulfillment and the embodiment of the promise that God made to David in 2 Samuel chapter 7. That Jesus, ready? Jesus is every single thing that the Old Testament is pointing towards. That's what Bartimaeus is claiming here. That Jesus isn't just a dude. He's not just a miracle worker. He's not just some cool guy. He is the Savior. He's the Messiah. Listen to me. He is the King that is going to reign forever. That's a big deal, isn't it? And here's what I began to think about. You ready? I love that many rebuked him. Well, I don't love that they rebuked him. We'll get to that in a second. But many are telling him, like, stop shouting, right? Like many are saying, dude, you need to chill out. You need to stop shouting. But what does the Bible say? He shouted all the more. You know what I began to think about? If we can put this up on the screen, we have this slide. I want to read it as we get up there, so I want to make sure they see it. About when you, that one? Yes, here it is. I love this. When you realize who Jesus is, you'll want him more. Like you notice, I mean, I was thinking back in Mark, and we've not seen anyone with this passion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, and this is kind of off the cuff. But I don't think we've seen anyone with this kind of passion crying out for Jesus yet. We've had people come to Jesus. We've had them come in faith to Jesus, but this, where he is screaming, Jesus, Son of David, we've not had that yet. I say, when you realize who Jesus is, when you realize what he's done for you, and for some of you, what he wants to do in your life, when you realize that, can I tell you what? You'll want him more. You'll worship in a way that other people might look at you on a Wednesday night and be like, dude, you need to chill out. And you'd be like, I don't care because I know what God's done for me and I'm going to shout. Yeah, it made me think about, I don't have time to go here. Gosh, but I'm going to go there. It made me think about David, right? When David is dancing into the city, he's dancing in Jerusalem with the Ark of the Covenant. Anybody remember this? He's dancing, and that girl, Michal, is like, David, you need to chill out. You're a king. You need to be more reserved. You need to be more calm. And David says, no, girl, because I know that I was just in a sheep's pasture. I was just a shepherd, and God took me from nothing as a boy and made me the king over Israel. So you can tell me to shut up, but I'm not going to shut up because I know where I was, and I know what God's brought me to, and I realize what he's done in my life. So I'm going to sing, and I'm going to shout, and I'm going to dance a little bit, and I'm going to get undignified before the Lord. When you realize who Jesus is, When you realize what he's done for you, when you realize what he is inviting you into, I'm praying that some of us tonight, we would begin to picture every time we sing and every time we worship, we would have a spirit of Bartimaeus that rises up in us and says, I don't care what other people think. I don't care what other people are going to say about me. I don't care if other people judge me. I know what Jesus has done in my life, and I can't help but sing about it. I can't help but shout. I can't help but raise my hands because I know who Jesus is, and when I realize who he is, I'm going to get loud for him. And I love that Bartimaeus does that. So you're picturing it. You remember? We're picturing it. Crowds going by, bustling, it's loud. And this blind dude, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now let's picture it, okay? Ready? Bartimaeus is blind. So yes or no? Can he make his way to Jesus? He can't, right? He can't. Well, extremely difficult. I mean, there's a crowd, it's crazy, and like maybe if he's blind, he could like maybe follow like the center of the noise, maybe. Here's all Bartimaeus can do. You ready? Listen, don't miss this, don't miss this. Here's all he can do. He can shout, because he's got his voice. He can shout, and you ready? He can hope. He can shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. But after that, all he can do is hope. He can shout, Jesus, have mercy on me, and then think to himself, gosh, I hope Jesus has enough mercy. He can shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, and then hope, gosh, I hope Jesus has enough love. I hope Jesus has enough time. I hope Jesus has enough compassion, because he cannot get to Jesus. He can't get there. He is destined to do the very thing he's doing here. He's got to sit here and just shout. All he can do is shout and hope. And hope. But read the Bible slow, right? Read the Bible slow. The next two words might be some of my favorite words on the Gospel Mark. You ready? Oh, you ain't ready, David. You ain't ready, bro. Two words. You ready? All right, could we put them up there? I guess it's three. Don't count the and. Look what happens next. Y'all ain't ready for this. All right. And what's the two words? Jesus did what? Stopped. So picture it. Picture it. Crowd is bustling. Crowd is moving. It's moving on. All of a sudden, over all the noise, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stops. I can see where you're not blown away by that. Are you blown away by that? Yes or no? Oh, you are? Well, tell your face then that, man. Like, look. Goodness gracious. Y'all can help me preach more than y'all do. I'm just letting you know. You're invited to that. Maybe some of you aren't blown away by it. Or maybe some of you think you are, but maybe you're not yet. Okay? Because here's what I have to do. That only gets crazy or crazier when we think about who the two people are in this event. Okay? So I thought about this. Bartimaeus. Right, let's think about who Bartimaeus is, and let's. I'm gonna try to be hip. I'm gonna try to be relevant. Okay, you have Instagram. You're on Instagram, and all of a sudden, a suggested follower for you comes up on Instagram. You know those boxes that you really never care about, and you just scroll right past or whatever. Suggested follower. Let's just say you're scrolling through, right, and you're watching stuff and checking sports, and you're checking people and looking at homecoming pictures, and you're doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden, you see a suggested follow for this dude named Bartimaeus. And it's like, who's Bartimaeus? You click on him. As soon as you click on him, you're like, I ain't following this dude, because Look at what's in his bio. Can we put this up? Okay, this is, the bio that you type. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all try to be cute and funny, and it's not. Sorry. This is what's in Bartimaeus' bio, okay? This is who he is. He's blind. He's a beggar. He's poor. He's an outcast. He's homeless, ostracized, hopeless, futureless. I don't know if that's a word, but he has no future. Okay? And he's a sinner. You say, Justin, why is he a sinner? Now listen, we know that he's a sinner because for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But here's what you need to understand. In this culture, in this day, if you read the Gospel of John, there's a time when Jesus and his disciples come up to this blind man, not Bartimaeus, another blind man, and the disciples ask Jesus, hey, Jesus, whose sin caused this man to be blind? Was it his dad's sin? Was it his mom's sin? Or was it his sin? See, people in this day, when they would look at a blind beggar, it wouldn't be like, oh man, that really stinks that he's blind. No, they would say his sin or someone else's sin caused him to be that way. Not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what they would have believed. So this is his bio. You following this dude? Probably not, right? Blind, beggar, poor, outcast, homeless, ostracized, hopeless, futureless, and he's a sinner. That's one person. That's who is crying out to Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So that's the one person in the story. Who's the other person in the story? Jesus. Now, don't put it up yet. Don't put it up yet. Man, when I thought about this, and I hope this is half as cool to y'all as I thought it was to me, Will. Like, I hope it was. When I was sitting in Brakeman's Coffee the other day. Any Brakeman's fan? I was sitting in Brakeman's and I was about to go, I was ready. And so this is what I'm saying. If that's in his bio, that's in Bartimaeus', you ready for what's in Jesus' bio? You ready? You ready? You ready? I love this. Put it up there. What is it? Jesus' bio. I am. Let's go, man. Now listen. Y'all have no idea how excited we're about to get in here. Listen. Some of you are like, what the crap? Like, what does that mean? Old Testament, right? Go back, read on your own Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3, you go back, and the people of God are in slavery, right? People of God are in Egypt. They're crying out to God, similar to this, have mercy on us, God. Remember your covenant. So God uses a man named Moses. Moses is tending sheep. He's walking out in these plains on this hillside, and he looks up and he sees a bush that's burning, but the bush is not burning up. Anybody remember this? VBS people, let's go. If you don't remember this story, you slept through VBS, shame on you. And he's walking by this bush, and it's burning. It's not being consumed, though. So he goes up, and he begins to have this conversation with God. Crazy, right? God says, take off your shoes. You're standing on holy ground, bro. And so Moses is like freaked out. And God begins telling Moses, I'm going to use you to go and free the people. Like you're going to be the instrument I use. You're going to be the person I use to go before Pharaoh and say, hey, let the people of God go. And so Moses asked a legit question, right? What's the question he asked? Anybody remember? Yeah, he says, who should I tell him sent me? Because think about this. Egypt has a ton of gods. Egypt has so many gods. Egypt is aware of other people's gods. There's so many different gods, and they all have names. They were all in control of certain things. So Moses asked a good question. He's like, okay, God, who should I say sent me? Because Pharaoh's going to ask me, what God is sending you? So what God do I say sent me? And God says, tell them I am sent you. Can I give you the simplified version of what that means? God's telling Moses, if I gave you the resume and I gave you the rundown of everything I was over, we'd be here for eternity plus a few years. We've been here for a long time. I'm over it all. I'm over the stars, I'm over the sky, I'm over the sun, I'm over the Nile River, I'm over the plains, I'm over the earth, I'm over all this thing, over every single person. I am the first, the last, the beginning, the end, the middle, everything in between, who's the one that's forevermore. I am all these things. So when you go, tell them I am sent you, because if you were going to really tell him all the things I was able to do and who I was, you'd be there for a long time and the people would die in slavery. Is that not crazy? He says, tell him I am sent you. So here's what's even better. Ready? John chapter 1. What happens in John chapter 1? Beginning of the book starts off, I quote this a lot, but it's so good and it's so formative. It says, in the beginning was the what? Word. And the Word, who's the Word? Jesus. The Word was with God, and the Word what? Was God. And so then John 1:14 says that in the birth of Jesus, that the Word of God became what? Flesh. So you ready? I am the great I am, who spoke the earth into existence, who formed the earth and the dimensions of the earth. Go back to Job 38 a few weeks ago when I preached it, blended if you want to. That does all that stuff. That made the Red Sea part, that turned the Nile River into blood, that made the very walls of Jericho crumble where they're at right now. The one who shut the mouths of lions, the one who protected his people in the fire, the one who did any possible thing you can name or imagine in the Testament. The I am in the flesh is walking down this road. That's so cool. I love that you said that, because that is so cool. God in the flesh, the Word who became flesh. This is why in John, all throughout John's gospel, Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. I am the bread of life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. He's telling you, I am in the flesh. So catch this. The I am stops for a beggar. He stops for the absolute lowest person in society. And you know what's crazy? This is going to sound weird to you. You know what's crazy? If Jesus ever had a legit excuse not to stop, you ready for it? This was it. Now, Justin, what do you mean? Where is Jesus going after this? To Jerusalem. What's waiting for him in Jerusalem? The cross. This is Mark's last account. I love this because it's almost like Mark is so ready to get us to the cross. But he's like, man, before I get him there, I got to tell him what happened in Jericho. I love that, right? Listen, Jesus is on his way to the cross. Jesus is on his way. When we pick up in Mark chapter 11, Jesus is entering into Jerusalem. He's entering not only into Jerusalem, he's entering into the last week of his life. Listen to me. If Jesus ever had a moment to say, you know what, Bartimaeus, I hear you, and bro, I appreciate your faith, and I'm honored that you call out to me, but Bartimaeus, I got something big I got to stay focused on. Bartimaeus, I appreciate you calling out to me, but man, I'm going to endure the most intense emotional and physical pain I've ever gone through. So Bartimaeus, I got to be focused right now, and I got to keep going, and I can't get sidetracked. I got bigger things to do. And he could have said this, Bartimaeus, I know you don't understand, but I'm going to the cross for you. Like I'm about to die for you, and I promise that's way bigger than what you want me to do right now. So Bartimaeus, I know you're crying out to me, and I appreciate it, but I got bigger things to do. Jesus, if he ever had an excuse to not stop, it was this moment. But yet driven by his compassion, motivated by his mercy, and fueled by his love, the I am stops for the lowest person in society. And this is what makes me want to shout. This is why I can't stand to get back on this stage and sing a little more, is because for every single person in this room, starting with here, when I cried out to Jesus, you ready? He stopped for me. When I cried out to him, y'all know, many of y'all know my story. As a 12-year-old, I grew up in this church. I was so religious, bro. I could quote so many verses. I could tell you the books of the Bible in order. I was the church kid that looked great, baptized when I was 6, knew all the stuff to do. I looked the part. And when I was at 12 years old at a camp down in Florida, I realized, man, I know a lot about Jesus, but I'm not really following Jesus. I knew a lot about Jesus, but I really was not pursuing him. And I cried out to the Lord, and he stopped. He stopped for me. A sinner, religious person who was faking everybody, and he stopped. And you could go to person after person in this room, and they would say, man, this is where I was when Jesus stopped for me. This is where I was when I was living like hell, hell-bound, destined for the grave, and yet I cried out in faith. I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't get to him, couldn't make my way there. All I could do was shout and hope, and he stopped for me. So here's the thing, believer in the room, you ready? Gosh, how can we not just be encouraged by that? Like if that's all you came and got tonight, then that's praise the Lord. We are reminded that Jesus stopped for us when we could do nothing for ourselves. But I just believe there's some of you in this room, and you might know a lot about Jesus. You might know a lot about who we are. You might know a lot about what we do, but you have never had a moment where you really cried out for him and he stopped for you. And if you do that tonight, I hate to do this on the spot. I'm sorry if this embarrasses you. Mitchell, did he stop for you a few weeks ago? Amen. He's still doing it, y'all. He's still doing it. He's still stopping when sinful people cry out to him. So Jesus stops. So he does. Call him. I'm ready to sing. I can't wait. Call him. And they called the blind man, saying to him, take heart, get up. He's calling you. Does that not tick anybody else off? Why, Stacey? I see you nodding. Why? Yeah, they just were walking by him. Can we put it back up? Was it verse 47 or verse 48? Can we go back up? Maybe it's verse 48. Yeah, they were just rebuking him, telling him to shut up. Now Jesus stops and calls him, and what does the verse 49 say? They say, take heart. He's calling you. Get up. The crowd takes me off, right? Okay, here's what's happening. Ready? Here's what's happening. They can't wait to see the miracle. They're like, oh my gosh, we get to see Jesus touch this dude. We're about to see Jesus heal this blind guy. Like, is he going to spit on him the way he did the other dude? Like, remember that from Mark chapter 8? Remember? Like, how's he going to do it? We're about to see the miracle. Man, this is what I jumped in line to see. I can't wait to see Jesus do something awesome. I can't wait. They all can't wait for that. But listen to me. You know what none of them did? Listen. None of them walked by Bartimaeus and they heard him crying and said, hey man, let me help you. Let me help you. Put your hand on my shoulder, bro, and he's over there, and I know you can't see, but he'll stop for you. I saw him do it for another blind man. Put your hand on my shoulder, and let me take you to him. None of them do that. And here's what I'm praying. You ready? If you call the point, your home and First Baptist Indian Trail is where you live, and you love this church, and you're part of this church, and this student ministry is your home. Here, I'm being youth pastor for a second. If you're just here checking us out, this ain't for you. This is just for us here every week. You ready? We cannot be that way. We can't. I, as your youth pastor, I cannot be that way. Here's what I thought of. We got to be careful. Oh, Lord, help us. And y'all you trust me, right? You trust me? I'm preaching to myself way before I'm preaching to you, okay? Listen, We got to be careful that we don't just celebrate salvations when they happen and here on Wednesday night and rejoice that God did something awesome, and yet we walk by people who are spiritually blind 6 days a week. Yeah. Did you hear me? I got to be careful that I don't get so excited when someone gives their life to the Lord at church on Sunday or Wednesday night. I'm like, sweet, Jesus, you're awesome. So glad you could do it. And I'm walking by people who maybe aren't calling out for him yet, but they need him. And it's just as simple as, bro, he stopped for me. He'll stop for you. Let me show you how to get to him. We can't be like the crowd. You with me? What if, how just freaking awesome would it be if some of you came in and you came in on a Wednesday night or you came in on a Sunday morning and someone was drunk the previous weekend at your high school? Didn't know which way was left from right, and you brought them in here and you said, bro, come sit with me, man, because you need to hear about the Jesus we're talking about. Or maybe better yet, like you told them about Jesus before they ever got here. Wouldn't that be kind of weird if like they get here and they're like, wait, this is what you believe in, right? We can't be like this crowd, y'all, because we're walking by people every single day. But the crowd get up, calling him. Verse 50, I love this. And throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and he came to Jesus. What's amazing there is blind people, they would often probably sit like this, right? And they're calling out. He probably had like a cloak laid over his lap, so when people tossed in money, it would fall right there and be easy for him to collect, right? So you know what's awesome? When he gets up and people are helping him and he throws away his cloak, he's probably throwing away money. He's probably throwing away what people may be giving him for the whole day. But you know what? It don't matter. He's about to meet Jesus. Physical things don't matter when you're about to meet the one who formed you and made you and is about to die for you unbelievably. So he throws it away. Look at verse 51. I love this. And Jesus said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said to him, Bartimaeus said, Rabbi, let me recover my sight. I want to see. And Jesus said to him, go your way. Your faith has made you well. And immediately, if I say immediately, he recovered his sight, and he followed him on the way. Man, y'all, I've been so blessed. This is one of my favorite passages. I've been so blessed of the example this Bartimaeus sets for us on how to cry out for Jesus, and it's an amazing reminder of what Jesus will do. But you know what he also sets an amazing example for us in? He sets an amazing example on what to do after Jesus has stopped for you. Think about this. Bartimaeus' eyes were not the only thing that just opened. You might be like, what do you mean? A whole new world of opportunities was opened up for Bartimaeus. He has an opportunity now to get a family. He's got an opportunity to get a job. He's got an opportunity to get an education. Now that he can see, he's got an opportunity to pursue anything he wants. But all that pales in comparison when the one who just opened your eyes is standing right in front of you. So here's Bartimaeus' logic, and here's what our logic has got to be, right? I think it's so simple, and that's why I love this story so much, because it's not complicated. It's simple. It's right there. Here's his logic. You ready? Can we put that up on the screen so we can see it? Yeah. Jesus stopped for me, so I will follow him. And think about this. He's following him to the cross, y'all. Like, Jesus is about to be in Jerusalem. He's about to undergo the worst week of his life. But he said, Jesus stopped for me, so I'm going to follow him. And there's some of you, maybe you've cried out and Jesus stopped for you, and you said, but you, like right now in your life, you are not following him. You are following everything about you and what you want to do. Can I just say, the only response that makes sense to Jesus stopping for us is this. It's the only response that makes sense. Jesus stopped for him. She said, I'm going to follow Jesus. Now, you know what's cool? Because maybe you're wondering, like, okay, but this is great, little awesome moment in the story. Did Bartimaeus continue to follow Jesus? Like, that's a valid question, right? Did he? Because he's about to go see the cross. He's about to see the worst week of Jesus' life. Like, did Bartimaeus continue? And truth be told, like, we don't officially know because Bartimaeus' name is never seen again in the New Testament. It's never seen in any of Paul's letters or nothing like that. But did you notice something weird about verse 46? Or just about this miracle in general? Does anyone notice anything weird about this miracle in general? I want to see if anyone of y'all think about it. Anybody notice anything weird in general? Think about, in all the other miracles that we've talked about, very rarely do we know the person's name. Thought about that? Like, we know Jairus' daughter. We know Jairus' name. We know Lazarus' name. I mean, I don't know if I'm missing anybody. That might be the whole list, right? Maybe there's someone I'm not thinking of. Like, it's just people, right? It's just normal, everyday people. We never get names. We just see what Jesus has done. But yet here, the Bible says that Bartimaeus, and then it gives his dad's name, right? Son of Timaeus. calls out for Jesus. Here's what I was reading, and there's a lot of dudes who like take a super theological look at it, and maybe that's right. I don't know. But there seemed to be the most consensus with this, and I think this is so cool. You ready? Is Mark is written to, anyone remember who Mark is primarily written to? Right? Roman Christians, Gentile Christians, right? You know what most people believe? Yeah, this is so cool. That Bartimaeus remained a member of the early church. And so when Mark is recording this and he's writing this and he says, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, there's probably people reading this gospel and they're like, oh my gosh, I know that guy. Like there's people, we don't know what church it was, but maybe there's people in church and it's like, they're reading this and they're hearing this and they're like, Bartimaeus, that was you, bro. And you and I began to wonder, y'all, I'm so ready to sing. I can't wait. I'm ready. Y'all began to wonder, what was it like? What was it like to be with Bartimaeus on a Sunday morning? And you're listening to the word being preached. You're listening to the word proclaimed. Maybe you and Bartimaeus are sitting right beside each other, right? And you're listening to this and you're hearing the word preached and you're sitting right next to this dude. And then you got up to sing afterwards. And this is a very preachery moment. We don't know what they were singing, right? Like we got some idea maybe of some songs here and there, but we don't know what they were singing. And before you get all, biblical on me, I know they weren't singing Amazing Grace, but I'm sure they had at least one song about the grace of God. Wouldn't you agree with that? Like I'm sure they were singing something about God's grace, right? What was it like when you're standing there worshiping beside someone who was blind and now they see, and Bartimaeus is like, let's sing it, right? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Because remember, he was destined to beg. He was destined to sit on the roadside and just hope that people would drop money in his pocket. That's what he's hoping. That was hopeless and he was wretched. And think about this. I once was lost, but now I'm found. And now you ready, right? I bet he shouted. I bet his hands went up. I bet he said something when he said, I was blind, but now I see. You know what? I don't know how Bartimaeus worshiped, right? But I know how we have an opportunity about to worship. And I don't know how he did. I don't know what he did. I'm sure it was pretty awesome. I'm sure it was pretty energetic. Because when you realize that Jesus stopped for you and who it was that the I am stopped for us, that's gonna fuel your worship a little bit different, isn't it? Man, aren't you grateful Jesus stopped for you? I'm grateful he stopped for me. Let's pray together. Band, you come on, make your way up.